Dear Games Workshop, I know it's not quite Christmas yet, but one cannot start with a wish list early enough, and rest assured that I have a great one for the Deathwatch. You know, that chapter of black-clad Space Marines that is not quite a chapter, but a gathering of Space Marines from all across the chapters, serving the Ordo Xenos of the Imperial Inquisition as its chamber militant. Much to our surprise, you released the Deathwatch supplement as the first chapter following the vanilla Space Marine Codex in 9th edition, and I would argue that you almost got us right. And personally, I never quite understood whether the army of Renown rules that followed later were the product of pure genius, or an incredibly lucky blind pick that just happened to align fluff with competitiveness. Or maybe the only reason why we are still competing up there these days is that no opponent really understands our rules anyway. Either way, I have a dream for the Deathwatch to share with you today. As we Swiss have a reputation for both modesty and orderliness to uphold, though I am not sure whether I can uphold the former in this particular video, it is the Deathwatch we are talking about after all, but I will certainly stick to the latter, presenting 3 wishes for turning the Deathwatch truly Deathwatch in 9th edition.
Welcome to SwissHammer, your channel for modeling in Warhammer 40k. My name is Temor, and I will be guiding you through this video.
First and most importantly, let's talk about the kill teams. Proclaimed dead by so-called playtesters at launch, who apparently never made it past the cover picture of our supplement, the Proteus Kill Team has proven to be the staple of successful competitive lists for all these months, even years at this point. The main reason for this, as far as I'm concerned, is because this kill team combines a unique default troop datasheet, the Deathwatch Veterans, with several potent datasheets from across different battlefield roles, which for the most part have flexible loadouts. The mentioned Deathwatch Veterans, Deathwatch Terminators, and Vanguard Veterans, to name the prime examples. The important part here is that not only does our default tax for this kill team, as we call it, come with veteran stats otherwise unavailable to firstborns in the troop slot, but the many different weapon options across the datasheets allow us to make this kill team anywhere from full firepower to full close combat, with extra defensive options such as storm shields mixed into the deal. Unfortunately though, this treatment has not been extended to our Primaris Kill Teams, which were freshly added in the 9th edition supplement. To provide the most drastic example out of the 3, even though there is a veteran Intercessor datasheet already available in the Space Marine Codex, our Fortis Kill Team still takes the plain default Intercessors as its base troops, not only locking us out of a veteran option, but also locking us into primarily ranged loadouts. As a friendly reminder, veteran Intercessors can pick between either regular Intercessor or Assault Intercessor loadouts, which would be ideal for pairing them with either Outriders or Hellblasters. Instead, we also get the option to add Assault Intercessors, which makes little sense, and again, this is something the Deathwatch Veteran datasheet addressed by providing a solid replacement for Devastator or Assault Marines, not that anyone played the latter anyway. The ill treatment of the Fortis Kill Team does not stop there, however. We are also unable to add Suppressors, which are the same armor type as Intercessors, even though Games Workshop insists on throwing them into their Phobos boxes. As a jump back unit, they would also have enabled the fall back and shoot stratagem for this particular kill team, just as it is available for both the Proteus and the Indomitor one. Then last but not least, being able to add Blade Guard Veterans would have enabled Storm Shields for this particular kill team, effectively bringing them somewhat on par with the spirit of the Proteus Kill Team. Now obviously, there is no veteran datasheet for infiltrators or heavy intercessors, and they have no different weapons to choose from, but in the spirit of the Deathwatch Veterans datasheet, adding an extra stats point or increasing the weapon range would have gone a long way to make our default troops feel like actual veterans. Such a missed opportunity. But moving on to the second point, which is chapter tactics and super doctrine. For those wondering, the Deathwatch super doctrine is mission tactics, allowing us to change the doctrine order. The fact that I have to point this out is a prelude to what is about to follow. Don't get me wrong though, I think mission tactics is excellent, and combined with the Army of Renown in particular, it is a very powerful toolset to have available. But me mentioning the Army of Renown and its ability to pick any chapter tactic army-wide is yet another sign of what has gone wrong here for the Deathwatch. Perhaps this is a bit bold for me to claim, but I think that with the current state of Space Marines in 9th edition, after having received a very moderate vanilla codex, whether a certain chapter is competitive or not almost entirely depends on its super doctrine and chapter tactics. It is the sole reason why some chapters like Imperial Fists are horrible, and some like Black Templars, Dark Angels and even White Scars have managed to keep up even against some of the overtuned new codex releases. As I mentioned, changing doctrine order is great, but it does not provide any stats benefits. Yet even worse, some of the benefits provided by the Deathwatch chapter tactics works against Xenos armies only. While incredibly fluffy, you simply cannot choose your opponent's army in a competitive setting, and as such, for the sake of balance, such lore elements should have no place as game rules. One of the reasons the Army of Renown is great is because we don't have to play with our default chapter tactic anymore, and I think that says it all. There are two possible ways to fix this. First, and perhaps the easiest, removing the works on Xenos only restriction from the chapter tactics, and then adding something other than just doctrine order to mission tactics. A second solution would be to incorporate the army-wide picking of a chapter tactic as default Deathwatch. This could be something to look into once the Army of Renown is being discontinued and or an updated supplement becomes available. Then for the third and last point, you may have guessed it, it is the matter of special issue ammunition. Yes, this is difficult to balance, but the current solution basically restricts it to a handful of Deathwatch veteran war gear, such as the Deathwatch bolt guns and stalkers, and this formerly iconic ability has now become niche at best. Again, there are several ways to approach this. One would be tying it to specialisms, making them a bit more attractive outside of the Army of Renown, where they are mandatory, or as an alternative, and this one is my favorite really, unlocking them for a few more weapons. Remember how I pointed out the lack of veteran datasheets for heavy intercessors, infiltrators, and the absence of veteran intercessors in the Fortis Kill Team? Well, one way to kill two birds with one stone would be to unlock special issue ammunition for veteran intercessors, heavy intercessors, and infiltrators in the Deathwatch when they are part of a kill team. This default kill team tax then becomes far more attractive and sets them apart from the default troops the regular chapters take. Furthermore, and yeah, this doesn't really fit in here, but has to be said at some point, give Reavers their Reaver keyword while in a Spectre's kill team to let them get access to their Terror Troop stratagem, and if you really want to push it, GW, give them special issue ammunition on top, at which point someone would actually buy all your Phobos kits. To summarize, my wish number one would be veteran-based troops for the Primaris Kill Teams and extending the datasheet options for the Fortis Kill Team in particular, which really suffers from the lack of options. Number two would be adjusting both Super Doctrine and Chapter Tactics to be on par with other Space Marine chapters, or just letting us borrow their stuff without having to pick the Army of Renown, something that could be looked into once it's being discontinued. The number 3 would be making special issue ammunition more available again, for instance by unlocking it for the base troops for the kill teams, which are already lacking, as previously mentioned. So that's it for my personal wish list and call for action for Games Workshop. I realize that this has been a bit of a different format than usual, but let me know how you think about these proposed changes anyway. Would they boost us completely over the top, such as Tyranids, Tau or Drukhari at Codex release, aka the normal 9th edition nightmare, or are these somewhat sensible? What kind of changes would you like to see for the Deathwatch, if any at all? Let me know in the comments. Finally, I would also like to mention that there is a SwissHammer Facebook page where I will be posting links to my videos as well as articles I find of interest. I do read a lot about the hobby, but not all of it will always end up as its own video. I look forward to seeing you there as well. I do also have a Patreon page. If you like my content, any additional support is greatly appreciated as it helps me invest into future videos. As always, thank you very much for watching, guys. Your continued support is greatly appreciated. I hope you have been enjoying this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks again and see you next time.